I have a couple of things that I want to show you. I want to show you the stuff that I was going to show you for Steve Bigelow. His stuff is really, really cool. I want to show you the Haguro stuff, which is something that I'm just going to give everybody for free, regardless of whether they came today, regardless of if you're a MetaStock customer, you can have it. And it's something that I really, really like. So we're going to kind of go through. I'm going to talk for about 30 minutes before I kind of really get into it. Again, let's take a minute to just say thanks to Technical Analysis of Stocks and Commodities. You're going to receive a free copy of it as long as you registered for it. If you need to register for it again, the link to use is metastock.com/Trader Summit. If you take a MetaStock trial today, if you spend any money at all, you're going to get 5 months free. For their physical subscription magazine. And if you spend $300 or more with different offers today, you'll get a complimentary 2-year subscription. Again, I've said it over and over again. It's a great magazine. Very much enjoy it. It's part of my continuing education process, and it should be part of yours as well. Definitely something we recommend strongly. For those of you that still want to get the trial, there are some options for you. You can just log on, go to metastock.com/Trader Summit T. Add an extra T to the end of that, and that'll help you get logged in for that. We do have people that are here on the phones ready to answer questions if you have them. You'll hear them behind me as I go through the presentation. My apologies, but it's 800-882-3040. You can also chat online with us at metastock.com. Whew, okay. If you do have questions, keep in mind I have a lot of stuff that I want to go through. I have basically 2 presentations I'm going to try and fit into the spot for 1 presentation. But I will do my best to answer the questions as they come in. To give you a little bit of background on my history, I've been working for MetaStock now for the better part of 20 years. I think it's like 16 or 17, and I really should go in and do the math on it. It's been a very enjoyable experience. For about the last, I would say, decade now, I've been in charge of our business development, which means, I help Steve Prima put his strategies into MetaStock. I talked Steve Bigelow into kind of doing an add-on with MetaStock. All of the wonderful people that we've had on here today are people that I've been intimately involved in helping them understand MetaStock, understand exactly what their methods are, and really build something cool with what they're doing. So it's been really, really fun. I really enjoy kind of what I do, and I'll probably do it for another decade or 2. So anyway, it's a really, really cool job to have. I just got back from New York with Steve, and, well, that's enough about me. Like I said, I have a lot of stuff that I want to kind of go through today, and I didn't want to take too much of the time kind of going through the MetaStock stuff. We have so many great speakers in today, but I do want to tell you a little bit more about the candle profit system that Steve Bigelow does. If you're familiar with MetaStock, a lot of this stuff will make sense to you, but we've put together basically all 23 of his patterns to kind of tell you exactly where they happen on the market and allow you to do like full market scanning and find the opportunities on the chart where they exist. And I'm actually going to show you how that applies within MetaStock and how you can kind of get the commentaries and how you can kind of see what fry pans are out there or what flutter kicks are out there or what J hooks are out there. So I'm going to give you kind of a real full demo of that. So just to leave this on the screen for a minute, these are the 23 patterns or so. I actually should count this. It's either 23 or 26. Somebody count it for me and tell me. And these are the patterns that we've identified for Steve Bigelow, the ones that he teaches people how to use. And I'm going to swap over into my MetaStock platform and show you exactly how these work in MetaStock. So I've got my Dow charts open. I randomly kind of picked this out. Like I said a little bit earlier, I just got back from New York. We did a presentation to the New York Investors Meetup group on Thursday night. Flew back yesterday, and now we're doing this class, and it's always fun, isn't it? But I want to give you an idea of how this works. So I just kind of pulled up Apple on the flight out to New York, and this was just because everybody knows Apple. It was actually, to be honest with you, the first chart I looked at, and I said, well, this looks good. I'm going to show this. So If you remember, Steve was using his moving averages. We've got them all coded. We've got the stochastics on here as well. And as part of our integration with MetaStock, what we've got is we've got the scoop pattern showing up as an arrow right here. We've got the left-right bearish combo that happened right here. And if I kind of come back a little bit in time, any of those 23 things that happen on this chart, here is a really good slow curve. And look at the pattern that we had after that slow curve. Any of those patterns that are actually there on the chart are going to show up. Obviously, this scoop was awesome. Look at kind of where it would have gotten you in. It's been hugging. Actually, it's kind of been extended. It's kind of coming back to where the T line is right there. And so by doing this, when you have Steve's stuff, it's going to automatically show you the scoops and the J-hooks and the dumpling tops and the left-right bullish combos and the left-right bearish combos. Those will automatically be annotated for you. You'll notice, for those of you that aren't familiar with MetaStock, MetaStock has a commentary functionality that I'm going to talk a little bit about. As we go through both this and the Haguro method, I'm going to kind of show you how this works. But over on the right-hand side here, it says, Steve Bigelow candle profit system, and it's looking at the Friday, basically, because that's the last day of trading activity. We didn't have a pattern that was on Friday, so it just kind of gives you some basic information on the pattern and how that works. Now, if I wanted to come back here and say, well, what would it have said on the 20th when the scoop pattern happened? What was the pattern that happened there? If I click on that, it's going to kind of move that commentary, ignore all this data that came in after, and I can see exactly what happened with the scoop. And you'll notice here we've got the scoop pattern. This is forming on the chart. An aggressive entry can be initiated at the top of the somebody just handed me a note, threw me off a little bit. So the aggressive entry can be initiated at the bottom of the scoop at the buy signal, exit if this happens, and if it breaks above the scoop signal, then you'll buy. So based on either of those parameters, you could have bought right here. If you would have waited till the exit of the scoop pattern, you would have bought here on the gap up. Okay, exit on the close below the last candle where the pattern broke out through the handle portion. So it's telling you where to get out. Because a lot of his patterns are visual patterns. We're looking for scoops. We're looking for dumpling tops. We're looking for J-hooks. We actually kind of also say in here the specific criteria that kind of generated this. So A happened, B happened, C happened, D happened, so that you can kind of analyze it and compare to what we've programmatically put into the software to make sure that it's logical for you. And of course we could go in and we could look at this slow curve as well, and it would kind of give us a little bit of information. We could also look at one of the left-right combos that happened. With some of the patterns, what we do is we also put enhancements to the pattern. So what we say is if there's a bigger, this will make the pattern more powerful if this is doing this, or if this is doing this. And the reason we do that is with MetaStock, we have the ability to go in and specifically scan for these patterns. So if we have some enhancements, and we have maybe 10 or 15 that come back, what we have the ability to do is say, okay, well, these ones have the best enhancements, so these are the ones that we're going to work with, and these are the ones that we're going to specifically use. I hope that's clear for you guys there. Now, let me show you how the scanning works for this as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click on the Explorer here. Okay, and when you have the CPS installed, you're going to have quite a few different patterns that are available. What I've got is the breakdown of the different scans that are here. We've got the Doji Dynamite, the J-hook, and these just match up to those same breakdowns of things that are available. When I look at the different scans, it's going to say, well, this one's going to look for your flutter kickers and your bullish kickers. This one would look for the Doji Dynamite. This would look for your J-hook patterns. And this will look for your price patterns. Because of, it doesn't take very long to run this scan, but because of the fact that we're kind of fitting this in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how the report would look. If I wanted to run this scan, what I do is I say, okay, this is a scan I want to run. I'll click on Next. And if you're trading in the U.S. and you want to scan the S&P, which is what I did, you just choose the S&P. You could choose the optionable stocks, whatever universe that you want to scan. If you're in India, you go down to the India list and you'd have that actually picked out. Doesn't matter where you're at or what you want to trade. With Reuters, where we get our data, we offer 181 exchanges. So regardless of what you're looking for, you'll be able to go in and see the patterns as they form in your market. And we do get a lot of international customers. I mean, we've sold more MetaStock in certain years in India than we have in the U.S. Australia is also great for us. Asia is very, very good for us. So if you're coming in from international and you're interested in doing some of this stuff in your own markets, the really cool thing about MetaStock is it's going to be available for you. Now, I'm not going to run the scan, but I'll show you how the report looks like so you can get it. Now, the one that I pre-ran for you, I ran this on the flight to New York, so this is a couple days old. But here you've got the CPS price pattern scan. That's the one I ran, and that's going to be looking for fry pans and bullish belt holds, bearish belt holds, dumpling tops, cradles, slow curves, T-line crunch, and the scoop. If I want to look at the report for that, I'm just going to go ahead and click on the report button. Here I've got a list of all the stocks that met that pattern. So for example, if I just sort here, you see how there's a 1 under fry pan? That means right now Discover Financial is giving us a fry pan. If I go over to the slow curve, I can kind of see which ones have the slow curve. So now, one of the things that's nice about MetaStock is instead of looking at 500 stocks, there's maybe a half a dozen on here that are already meeting the patterns that match up for us. So you already have all kind of the stuff that you need right there, ready to go. We can actually save this list. We could kind of go through them one at a time and kind of see exactly which ones had the best enhancements. But, you know, one of the nice things that's available in MetaStock is scanning. Dave, when I turn the time over to him, is going to show you forecasting, which is also really, really cool. But scanning is our ability to kind of go in and out of all of the stocks that are out there, narrow it down to the ones you're interested in. The other kind of things that we have in here is the ability to kind of give you this commentary that's showing up, and we call that Expert Advisor. We also do system testing. We probably won't talk about that too much today, but we have lots of videos on it. We have a very robust platform. Again, excuse me, it's been rated #1 in its price category for the last, gosh, 20-something years. So it's an awesome toolbox. Personally, I use Thinkorswim. I know a lot of you probably use a broker's platform. I wouldn't trade without MetaStock. If I did, I wouldn't be nearly as effective as I am. Okay. I have one question from Shalindra. Unable to find the trial option for MetaStock at metastock.com/tradersummit. You have the link, right? It's actually metastock.com/tradersummit with an extra T. So if you go here, dash, okay, and I'll send that link over to you. Nass asks, what's the difference between the Steve Nissan, the John Murphy, and the Bigelow? Well, this add-ons, well, this one has all of Bigelow's patterns. It's very, very different than kind of the Murphy one. Murphy has a very cool scoring system. There's a question, what happened to the Haguro method? Now we're going to go into the Haguro method. So we definitely are going to talk about that. I definitely wanted to kind of show you. We spent 2 years working on CPS. Steve went a little bit long, and I definitely wanted to show you a little bit more about what was involved with CPS because it's a very cool add-on, and you should try it. We do offer it with a money-back guarantee. Let me go through back to the PowerPoint, and we'll get back to our previously scheduled Haguro method webinar. So let me go ahead and close this out. I'm going to go ahead and minimize here. Again, for those of you in the audience, if you want to see a list of the patterns, these are the ones that are available. Okay, one of our most popular add-ons for MetaStock, and I'd recommend you try it. People love it. Again, it's a one-time cost. The cost is $3.99. For coming to the summit, you're going to get $100 off. It's $299. If you want to order it, or if you have specific questions, I know I'm kind of giving an abbreviated demo here, give us a call. We have reps here today that can help you. Their number is 1-800-882-3040. We also have our chat lines open at metastock.com. Just click on the chat button. Whew. Okay, awesome. So how long did that take me? 16 minutes? That's fine. Let me go ahead and talk a little bit about, I already told you a little bit about my role. Again, I feel like I have the best job in the company, you know. Those of you, I know about 75% of you are not familiar with MetaStock. We're not going to spend a lot of time on what MetaStock is, but I do want you to know we're a company that's been in business since 1982. We've sold about 310,000 copies of the software, and there's some really cool functionality. The ability to scan and test trading ideas and that kind of stuff are all built into the program. And it has been rated #1 in its price category this year. In 24 years in a row, basically. So if you have questions, you want to get the trial, it's metastock.com/Trader Summit with an extra T at the end for trial. Or give us a call. The phone number is 800-882-3040. They can talk to you about the options that are available for you. They can talk to you about the extended trial. And the people that are here are really, really good. They can definitely take really good care of most of the questions that you're going to have. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Haguro. I think I already made it clear that one of my favorite parts of the job is the ability to talk to people that I would say have a lot more market knowledge than I do. The Haguro Method is a work of a guy by the name of Gary Burton, who runs the Australian School of Technical Analysis in Australia. You probably figured that out. I met him in Sydney a little bit earlier this year. I think it was July. Maybe it was a little bit later in the year than that. And we started talking a little bit at shop. It was a very slow trade show, and I wanted to know what he was doing. And he had a very, very, I'll say, cool way of looking at weekly methods. So what I decided to do was help him code it into MetaStock. He trains a lot of people down in Australia on how to trade the markets, and so if we can program something like that into MetaStock, a lot of his students will come get MetaStock. It's great business for us. So initially that was kind of the goal. As we programmed it, it was something that I decided I really, really liked. In fact, I use it a lot with the trades that I do on the diamonds and looking at it from a weekly basis. So I asked Gary for permission to give it to not just his students, but all of the MetaStock customers that we've got, and he agreed. So I thought that was pretty cool, and we've made it available for you. We finished up all the coding maybe about 3 weeks ago, and we've tested it through our testing team, and it's something that is available for you for now. If you're using MetaStock, it's just a free download, and you can pull it into your system. So my goal here is to spend the next 10 or 15 minutes actually showing you exactly what this is and how it works. So the Haguro is basically a weekly method for interpretation of charts, and it's based on the work of Siki Shimizu, and I'm sure I have not got the right name pronunciation from that. My marketing guy actually knows Japanese, and he corrects me every time I say that, but I know Seiki is a lot closer. Shimizu is different, but it's a method that was developed in a very obscure text. It's in Japanese, and Gary Burton actually uses it quite a bit. He kind of translated a lot of the works over, and it's something that he's been teaching his customers how to use for a long time. Now, it's used to identify continuation and turning points in the underlying trend direction on a weekly basis. And Seiki was very specific about that. You know, a weekly bar is very different than a daily bar because you have 5 trading sessions followed by 2 days of rest or 2 days of thinking. And so a lot of what the interpretation that you'll use on the charts for weekly, if you look at daily methods, are going to be in some cases the direct opposite of what they are on a daily basis for candlesticks. And so this is based on the work that he's done on it. There's a couple things that we need to talk about before I show you how this works in MetaStock. And the first one that I want to talk about is what they call the midpoint of the line. In this case, the midpoint is kind of important because it serves as support and resistance. We update our midpoints when I start to show you the MetaStock when we have a significant range day. It's when we have, but when we refer to the midpoint, what we're meaning is the middle of the range. The middle, if you took the high and added the low and divided by 2, that would be your midpoint. So we're going to be using the midpoint of the lines. We also, as part of the thing, we classify every single bar type in here, or each line, as Gary likes to call them. So if we look at this side, there's 8 different classifications of bullish candles. If we look at the following line, there's 8 classifications of bearish candles. And those are the only possibilities. So between this slide here, these 8 patterns, and the following 8 patterns, those are the only lines that can exist on a chart. So these are the different lines and how we identify them. And each line has a different interpretation, which I've also coded into MetaStock as the expert advisors, which I'll show to you how those work in a little bit of a detail. Now, just to kind of give you some classifications, I'm not going to go through all the classifications of the lines, but here's 1 and 9, for example. 1 would be the green version of this pattern, and 9 would be the red version. Well, when line number 9 appears, the body is above the midpoint, so the body will be up here with the closing price lower than the open. If this is a short line, then the trader should wait for the market to show direction. In other words, if it's more of a doji line, what you're going to want to do is wait until you see the market exhibiting some form of direction. Following price movements can engulf this short movement. So what he's saying is look for an bullish engulfing or a bearish engulfing type of a pattern. When this is a long line, selling is indicated when trading in the direction of the underlying movement and trend. The other two lines that I'm going to talk about, and these, well, actually, I think I'm going to talk about another set of lines after this, but there's 2 and a 16, and we've had a lot of 2s lately on the Dow. The 2, basically, and this just kind of gives you the description, and because we're running a little bit low on time right now, what I think I'm going to do is just show you this in the software. The other lines that are very important to us, basically, this is actually important. I should go through this. Line 2 can give an indication of a market top 2 weeks in advance if found after a continued rise in prices. When a price falls to the next week, opening positions should be closed. So when you have a line number 2, which we had just in the thing, what it's saying is if the price goes up and comes back down to where that opens the following bar, you should close the thing. And here's your line 2, which we actually identify these. Now here we've got a line 2, but that didn't, you notice how it opened and continued to go up. It opened and continued to go up. So in these particular line 2s, you'll want to hold on to it. But if you have a weekly chart where you get a line number 2 and it comes back to the opening of that week, that's when you'd exit positions. That's how you'd use that. I'm going to skip that a little bit just because of time. 3 and 15, I'm going to show you some examples in 3 of 15. But this is like your indecision line. If the opening price of the following week is above the midpoint, then selling is indicated. Short positions should be held on a line number 3. So that kind of gives you an idea of some of the mentality behind it. Let me kind of show you how this works in MetaStock. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll close. What I'm going to do is I've already prepared. A lot of you know I look at a lot of Dow Industrials if you've heard any of my classes before. And I'm going to show you how this will work on a chart. So let me go ahead and expand this to full screen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply the template. Yeah. So I just right-click on the chart. I'll click on Apply Template, and I'm going to go to the Haguro Method. Okay, and we'll just walk through exactly how this looks on a chart. Here on the chart, I'm just going to kind of zoom in a little bit. What you'll notice is we've got a percent in range. And this is important because when we're extended in price, like right now we're extended in price, meaning we've had a huge run. Oh, I also want to put this into a weekly mode. Remember, it's for weekly use. I was wondering why I didn't look exactly the way I was looking at it a little bit earlier. But if we're extended in range, the candles are actually more valuable. So you see this last week was actually a number 2. And you see how it says the range of this stock has extended more than 7%. That just means we're way out of range on the Dow on a weekly basis right now. This means that your candle lines are more significant. If we went back in time to where we didn't have that extension in range, it would say actually automatically this means your candle lines are less significant. Okay. Now, on the candle 2, so you have the range. The other thing that we've got here is the Haguro midpoint. And you'll notice that when we have a significant range, like this last, I'm sure all of you remember this week. This was the week we had that big kind of a collapse in the market. We set a new range. So this is actually showing you where support and resistance is lining up on the weekly basis. And we can kind of come in here. As long as we're above this line, what we would be looking for is long positions. And we can use this really as a very literal support and resistance level. Okay. Now, all of the notes that Gary put together for the course is actually available as part of the plugin. You'll notice this is labeled a candle 2, this is labeled a candle 2, this is labeled a candle 2. And so when that happens, what we're going to say is when this long line, the midpoint is set as future support for declining prices. So what this is saying is if this is an incredibly long line, we'd have a new midpoint that actually updates. It wasn't longer here than it was here, so a new midpoint wasn't set. Concerning line number 2, this appears at the outset of a rise in the market after a fall in prices, and a further opening price above the midpoint in the following price movement should occur. What you should do is wait for the next week's price to open above the midpoint of the line. If the price closes below the midpoint of the line, close any long position. So it's really specific about what you should do to trade this. The other thing that it says that's kind of interesting right now for the Dow is you'll notice that we've had 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks as number 2s. So the market's pretty much shot up in a pretty unconventional way the last 3 weeks. And what this says is after a 4th week of upward movement, trades that you have in this instrument should be liquidated. Down below here, we actually kind of go into more information about the Haguro method. We kind of show you what each line means. And with the expert commentary, if I want to come see what this line number 9 meant, I can kind of click on it, and then I can kind of see, okay, the candle 9 is an indecision line. When line number 9 appears, traders should wait for direction. The body is above the midpoint. If this is a short line, then the trader should wait for the market to show direction. So again, we're kind of put in some advice for you in terms of what to do. The most important lines are actually the candle 3 lines, because those are very similar to your dojis, and the candle number 15 are the ones that kind of show. And if we kind of come back here and look at the 3s, they're usually right before huge market sell-offs or big market rallies, as you would expect with any kind of a hammer type of a pattern. Look, here's a candle 3. We have a big rise in price. Here's a candle 3. We have a big decline in price. And that's kind of one of the candle patterns you want to pay particularly close attention to. In fact, it's one of the ones that we scan for. And let me show you how scanning works with the Haguro method. There's a couple things. Since we're working with weekly charts, there's a couple things that you should kind of be aware of, especially if you're running your scans on a weekly or on a Wednesday or whatever, because you want to look at completed bars. Again, Siki was very, very specific about the fact that you should use weekly bars with this method. In fact, a lot of the candles, when they appear on a daily basis, have the opposite meaning of what they would have on a weekly basis. So if I come in here, I'll just click on our Explorer again. That'll open up our Explorer console. Again, this is a free download. I encourage you to play with it, use it. It's something that I use as part of my regular Dow analysis now. And here we've got the candle. There's 2 scans. There's the Haguro candle 3. So this will look for your candle 3s that have either a plus or a minus 7% in range. Remember, if you're overextended in range, the lines are more valuable. Here we've got a midpoint cross. A good opportunity is when you kind of come from down below the midpoint to above, because you're establishing that as a resistance level or a support level when you cross. So that scan will look for a midpoint cross either above the midpoint or down below the midpoint. Let me just show you exactly how this scan would work, because you want to run it correctly when you're using it inside of MetaStock. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click on Next right here. I would identify, I'm just going to do the S&P 500. I didn't run this one in advance. And here I've got the S&P 500 list. I'm going to go ahead and click on Next. And what you'll want to do is you'll want to run this on a weekly interval. More importantly, if you're running it on a Wednesday, you don't want to run a scan from Monday to Wednesday. You want a full week. So in that particular case, you'll uncheck this use current exchange date and times, and you'll set it to either the Saturday that you run in the before or the Friday before. Either one of those will work, and that way you'll get the latest completed week. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and set that way. Make sure you're scanning it on a weekly basis. This is very much a weekly method. We'll go ahead and click on Start Exploration, and what's going to happen is we're going to run through the 500 stocks, and it's going to tell us, in this particular case, it's going to give us a list of all of the stocks that have a candle 3. Okay, shouldn't take too long to run. Hopefully it doesn't. We're about halfway done right now. I'll just let it finish. Sometimes I cancel it if it's going to take too long, and just show you the reports as they appear. But in this particular case, it's going to be done in a second. Reese asked a question, how do I, and I'm sorry, there's a lot of questions that have come in, and because I wanted to fit both conversations in, I haven't answered a lot of them, but I will show you how to get the Haguro method for free. Okay, let me go ahead and click on the reports here and just show you this. What we've got is we've got the range of the stock, the current range of the stock, the close. The range just is how far is it extended. All of them will have a 3 because that's what we're looking for and what the Haguro midpoint is currently. So you could kind of look at this as a couple ways. What's our close versus our midpoint? Where would we be buying versus where support is? That's something you might want to look at. Or you might want to look at, as a reversal opportunity, which ones are most extended in range. So if it's going to reverse, if it's extended to the top side, and you're maybe taking a short position or looking for short opportunities, obviously you might want one that's really, really extended. Notice I didn't say you would want one. I'm not going to tell you how you should be trading. I'm just giving you ideas here. But in this particular case, we had a Haguro 3 this week on Keurig, and it's actually 35% extended above its range. So that would be something to kind of take a look at as a possible. The next one down was Home Depot, which had 29. So it's a very interesting pattern, a really interesting method. I hope you like it, but I'm going to give it to you for free anyway. So it is a cool method. I've integrated it into my own ways of looking at Dow. I use it on a very regular basis to evaluate the positions that I've got. It's not how I trigger the methods, but it's definitely something that I very, very closely pay attention to get an outlook for the week, if that makes sense. So let me kind of come back in here. How do I get it? Let's answer that question real quick. So very simply, let me go down here. The free download is available at metastock.com/Haguro. Okay, so metastock.com/Haguro. There's a little video that kind of is Gary Burton talking about up on that site how it works. There's also just if you click on number 2, it's a quick download. It'll work with MetaStock 13 or higher because I've coded it in 13, so it'll work with MetaStock 13 or higher. And I hope you enjoy it. It's just something that Gary was generous enough to kind of give out to people for free. Something that I liked enough to actually kind of program myself and make available for you, and I hope you like it. Ripple asked, does both MetaStock versions have the candlestick patterns? Yes, they do. The normal cost for monthly cost of MetaStock is like $59. So if you're calling in to get set up for MetaStock, what I would recommend that you do is sign up for the buy one get two free, because what you're going to do is you're going to get pay $20 a month for the next 3 months. How cheap is that? Gives you plenty of time to play with all of the software. Dave's going to come on here in just a second and talk about forecasting. And Steve's program does work with end-of-day data. And I'm over time. So what we're going to do right now is actually turn the time over to Mr. Osmond and have him kind of come in and talk a little bit about the forecaster, which is another